Hi, everybody. It is February 28th, 2013. My name is Dan Boul. I'm president of 65 Amps. I'm coming to you live from my office in Los Angeles, California. Many of you will be watching this on the recording. So, for those of you that aren't watching, there's a nice chat window going here live where I'm interacting with viewers. And I highly encourage you to come by and visit us live. So if you have any specific questions and amp talk, and we talk about all sorts of fun things here. Me being the amp gear nerd that I am, a lot of us sit together and have fun. It's very cool. And so right now we've got, it looks like 40 or 50 registered users on that are interacting on the chat window. I'm going to try to get to all their questions. I have a few subjects from last week that I want to address. Some questions from last week. Let me adjust this camera just a hair. And away we go. Very nice. So there's a lot of regular users on here that I appreciate. You're going to hear me talk to them as if they're old friends. It's because they are old friends. And I won't be looking into the camera a whole lot because I'm trying to read at the same time. And it's kind of weird. But, excuse me. So before we went to recording here, we were talking about a few little things that we'll get back to. But first off, let me give you an update on what's going on at 65. From last week, had a lot of people asking about the status of our cabinets. We've got about 100 cabinets cut out there now. We're trying to get them covered. And that's the holdup for us being all finished. The covering on our cabinets, if you guys are familiar with our products, is kind of difficult relative to most cabinets. We have a lot of curves and not a lot of straight lines, and we don't use the little cheap corners on the amp because 50% of the work is doing the corners, so a good way to cheapen that is just to stick plastic corners over it and nobody ever knows. Hey, Rockabilly12, how are you, man? Nick S., I'm talking about your amp with Steve Gray, so please be patient. It's kind of hard to squeeze that into our production schedule right now. So if you can bear with me, I will have a smart answer for you soon. And Steve has asked me 3 times, so don't worry, he's doing his job. Yeah, anyway, I'll have finished cabinets hopefully to show you very soon. I'm rushing out an order right now to Japan with a bunch of Ventura combos. They like the little Ventura a lot there, so we're trying to slam that out the door. We got all the chassis finished, and we're trying to finish the cabinets. So, very nice. Thank you, Nick. I know what it's like when you got your mind set on a piece of gear. I appreciate your patience, sincerely. I really do. Don't take it lightly. Trust me, I just got a ton of work. Hey, it's Anita Farragher. Hi, Anita. Hey, happy birthday, by the way, Anita. It was Anita's birthday the other day. Is that right, Anita? I think I saw your birthday on Facebook. What's it feel like to be 29? Yeah, well, my question for you, Anita, since you just had a birthday, is how old would you be if you did not, let me say this again, cut, take 2. How old would you be if you did not measure your age in years? That's my favorite question I've been asked at my birthday. Happy birthday to you. Happy birthday to you. You want me to do the whole song? I forgot the words. Happy birthday, Mr. President. That was too easy. I had to do it. You knew I wasn't going to do it straight, right? You knew I would just sit here and sing happy birthday. Oh, that's cute. Mr. President. I do that at like everyone's birthday, and they all go, oh, God. It's gross. Hairy old man doing a Marilyn Monroe impression. And it's a pretty indelible image, you got to admit. But coming from a guy with long hair and a beard who's 47 years old, I believe that qualifies as funny. Not that I'm patting myself on the back. I am assuming you're all laughing behind your computers right now, and I just can't hear it. That's right. Right. Okay. Good. So anyway, where we left off last week, you're older than Nanny Boo Boo. Okay. I don't want to go off on a tangent on Honey Boo Boo, Nanny Boo Boo, whatever it is. But what in the hell is wrong with our society? Okay, I just wanted to say that. Yeah, get back to work. No, I just had to say that. Like, what in the hell's wrong with our society? That show is, I've watched it once. It's the dumbest thing I've ever seen in my life. It's humiliating. I don't enjoy watching other people get humiliated. Schadenfreude, is that what they call the German word, Schadenfreude? I don't have that. I don't like seeing people that are just embarrassing and they don't even know it. I think it's just predatory or something to watch that. But anyway, that's a whole nother conversation we'll have on the nighttime version of our show. Speaking of which, let me ask you guys about that really quick. So I've been approached by two different entertainment companies to do a version of this show on the web that's not just about 65 amps. More of a behind-the-scenes chat show where I get engineers and producers and road players and sidemen and manufacturers here. And we kind of peek behind the curtains. Like, I don't know if you guys remember when I had Tom Sharofsky on here, who's Brendan O'Brien's engineer. And he showed all you guys the trick to getting Brendan O'Brien's guitar sounds. Man, that's deep, deep, deep inside information. And when I had Ken Scott on, talking about working with the Beatles and David Bowie and Elton John and people like that, and he told a lot of behind the curtain stories that I thought were fascinating. Of course, I'm a big Beatles nerd. I've got my Shea Stadium shirt on right now. And Brian Kehoe, right, exactly. Kehoe is a wealth of information. This guy is incredible. I mean, I remember he taught us all how to use a compressor correctly, which hardly anyone knows how to do. Here's the rub, though. So these guys are all telling me that in order to do a show like that, we'd have to be more professional. Like, they'd get a studio and we'd have better sound and better lighting and a proper thing instead of just me here doing my zero dark 30. So I'd have to charge for it. It would be a very small fee, like 99 cents. Could you guys stomach that? Are you offended if I were to put together a really professional show? It's not about selling 65. I mean, this show I'll always keep doing. It'll always be about 65 amps. But this thing would be more of a product. You guys would pay. Okay. Well, my whole thing is like, guitar players, there's a world of information on the internet, so why are they going to pay? And the value, I guess, would be that I have access to a lot of really fascinating people in the music business, and for some reason they like to come in here and tell me secrets. So secrets that, I'm just like you guys. I sit there and listen and go, really? Oh my God, that's great. But 99 cents. Like downloading a song from iTunes, Maybe give you a subscription rate. If you want to subscribe for a year, we'd give you a deal. So, but I don't want it to be punishing, because I think at a certain point it's just, who cares? At $4 a show or something, I wouldn't do it. But yeah, something like that. But I'm going to keep doing this show. Don't worry, this show's not going away. Like, the 65 amp gear nerd crazy stuff will always go on. This will always be free. The other show would, the temporary name is Backstage with Dan Boul. So, yeah, Pensado's. Dave Pensado's show is really cool. I watch that. I watch Live from Daryl's House. Now, I can't draw a crowd like those guys do. Definitely not like Daryl Hall. But, man, I watch Live from Daryl's House religiously. I think it's cool. It's on Palladia, I think. And where I got the idea, I have a friend of mine who's acquainted with Adam Carolla, the comedian. And Adam Carolla's doing a web show where he's making like $100,000 a week. So if I could get 5% of that, I'd be really happy. It'd be on Ustream. We'd also podcast it as well. Yeah, you guys watch Live from Daryl's House? You know who was on there a couple weeks ago? We'll just go off on a tangent here for a minute because we got plenty of time. A friend of mine from Atlanta, Butch Walker, who's one of our customers, who's a songwriter. I knew him in Atlanta when he was in a band that was great. Yeah, that's right, Frank, the Amazon affiliate thing. He was in a band. He was in a trio called the Terrific Three or something like that. And they were just amazing. It was pop, but it was pop rock. And now he's a producer. I guess the Marvelous Three, yeah, something like that. God, it was a long time ago. And Grace Potter's doing Daryl tonight. Oh, cool. That came out wrong, didn't it? Grace Potter's doing Daryl tonight. Okay, well, I'll tune in for that. I've met Grace. She's a very, very nice girl. So, where were we? I got thinking about Grace Potter and Daryl Hall. I got distracted. Woo. Butch Walker. So then he started, producing records on the side, and he is the guy kind of responsible for Pink. He's amazing. Makes those records, whether you like Pink's music or not. I'm kind of on the fence about Pink's music, but I kind of like her. I think she's cool. But the records sound amazing. And all of that pop sensibility that she has, which whether you like pop or not, you got to respect pop sensibility. The ability, like, this song is going to sell. And you can kind of take the high road or the low road on pop stuff. I think Pink definitely takes the high road when it comes to pop music. And that's Butch Walker. It's so cool. And he's just a down-to-earth, nicest guy in the world. And he's just got that radar. He knows how to make stuff that sells. But yeah, that episode where he was singing with Daryl Hall, I thought was really good. What's always amazing when I watch Live at Daryl's is how good his voice actually is. Did you see the one with Joe Walsh? Or Joe Walsh, and they played a bunch of Joe Walsh tunes. And, they trade verses when they're singing. Walsh has got his own thing, and it's really, really good. You have heard 65s on Pink's records. Butch has a London that he uses a lot for Pink. Yeah, Pink's a real thing. She doesn't lip sync or anything like that. She's like an Olympic athlete. She's crazy strong. But anyway, the episode of Live at Daryl's House where Joe Walsh came on. Joe sounded great, too, I got to admit. I mean, I was like, dang, Joe, you 65 years old or something? He sounded amazing. And Daryl just hangs right in there. And Joe sings really high. His voice is stupidly high. He's got like a little girl's voice. And Daryl just sounds so good. Because for me, it was always Daryl Hall and that other guy. Because Hall & Oates had some really cool songs, even though it's not my style of music. And, yeah, Joe had some weird amp. I don't know what it was. They don't bring their own rig to those things. G.E. Smith, used to play with Daryl. Here's an interesting bit of trivia for you guys that watch Live at Daryl's House. If you look in his rack of guitars that you always see there, there's an orange Gretsch Country Rock in there. Or Roundup. They changed it to Roundup later, but the original one was called Country Rock. That's my guitar. I sold that guitar to Daryl Hall in the 80s. A good friend of mine, Pat Buchanan, replaced G.E. Smith in Hall & Oates. And they were playing here in L.A. at the Universal Amphitheater when I was going to MI as a kid. And Pat wanted to borrow that guitar for the show because it's got the leather binding around it. It's got the big G branded in it and the big belt buckle with the steer horns on it and all that stuff. Total redneck crazy guitar. And bright orange. And so Pat took it to the gig. This is before cell phones, so he's on a payphone backstage calling me going, man, Daryl really wants this guitar. I said, I don't want to sell that guitar. I love it. And I think I paid $300 for it in the early 80s, which was a lot of money 30 years ago. And I bought it used. It actually had a cracked headstock, and I fixed the headstock. And he goes, man, just name your price. So I said, man, I would only sell that guitar for like $1,000, which in 1986 was a lot of money. And so he calls me back like 5 minutes later, and Daryl says, do you want cash or checks? So that's my old Gretsch Country Rock. I love that guitar too. I miss it. I wish I had it back now. It was good. But it's so funny. I hadn't thought about it. I had no idea he still had it. And I watched that show, and I was like, that's my Gretsch. He still has it. It's very cool. So anyway, enough about me. Let's talk about you. How's your life? Tell me what's going on. So we're going to talk about PCB amps today. I already talked about the status of the cabs. Someone had asked me to give some tips on recording 65s. Gear and mics and preamps and compressors and all that kind of stuff, which I think is a fun conversation. And somebody had asked about 65 swag as well, which I don't have any more of today. Sorry. I will. I promise. So, having said that, what do you guys want to talk about first? PCB stuff? Life is good, Foosh says. See? That's what I want to hear. What about your needs? When will the first pedals come in? Can you already tell me what they will be like? Yeah, just a distortion and a clean booster are the first two things we're working on. Hi, Mickey Kid from the UK. Welcome. Glad you could make it. Oh, Nick. Okay. Good. We got a good English contingent on today. Well, let's start right there. Hey, Doug Gilliam. Glad you're back. Nice to see you. Thanks for coming in on Thursday. What will the clean boost be like? It'll be really good. No donated 65s yet at the Rock and Roll Hall of Fame. Yeah, that's a good idea. Sing it hard, sing it well. That's a very good idea. Thank you for that. I just might do that. Okay. So let's see. The color boost is still available. We're not making them right now because we're just slammed making amps, but we will have those back. Let's talk about PCB amps first, if that's okay, and then that'll be short. And Nick, then we'll get into some recording stuff. Yeah, everybody needs a good clean boost. It's a delicate thing to do it correctly. So we're trying to get it right where it's very transparent and natural and cool, not just you know. There's a lot of stuff there. So I can't answer the phone right now. My cell phone's over here vibrating. So PCB stuff. So I just got out of a meeting with an engineer, and we're talking about doing some really cool stuff. One of the things I've always wanted to put inside an amplifier and do it correctly is a good compressor limiter, sort of a studio style circuit. So this is a big secret I'm revealing here right now. And this kind of ties into the recording thing, Nick, so this is relevant to your question. for me, there's two compressors that I really like on guitars in the studio. Of course, the LA2A, which has got 6 tubes in it, I think, with a photo cell. And then the other one is the 1176, which is FET driven. They both have the ability to make a guitar sound just absolutely gigantic. And I've always wondered why you couldn't just, their circuits aren't that complex. Hand wired, it would be insane. It would be as big as my desk. But on a printed circuit board, I think you could do it pretty nicely with some quality components and be able to get the ability to set the input and the output and the attack and the release. And have a little knob to set your compression ratio on it. For the guys that have spent any time on stage, a compressor is arguably one of the more necessary pedals when you're on stage. Not so much to limit the top, but to bring up the soft stuff. You know what, King Darko? I don't really know yet. I'm not really sure if I'm even going to do a tube version of the compressor. I couldn't realistically put an LA2A in an amp. I mean, there'd be more tubes than there is in the amp. Plus, the LA2A uses some oddball tubes that aren't really practical for large production, which is part of the reason those things are so expensive. But the 1176 is. The 1176 is it runs, my 1176 is the MC77 made by Purple Audio, which I think is one of the best 1176s around. I'm reading at the same time here, sorry. And it's a solid state circuit. It works great. So is an LA4A, is solid state. And it acts a lot like an LA2A. The only problem is it has that photo cell, the opto switch in it, which is big. I don't know if that's practical to put in an amplifier or not. Foosh says you just snatched up 10 NOS 6v6s, still dusty. Oh, good. Yes, NOS tubes can be all over the map. Tubes are always kind of all over the map. As long as they're meeting spec, it's okay. You're probably finding some that are over spec. And if you're getting ones that are under spec, they're probably rejects. Someone tested them when they were new and went, put them back in the box. And they're probably still better than modern production. Yeah, Josh, I've often thought about putting an 1176 circuit into a pedal. I mean, it gets its own cool distortion. It's really cool. I did not see anything at NAMM other than the inside of my booth and the bathroom. Sorry, King Darko. We were so slammed at NAMM. I didn't see anyone else's booth, except for Bogner, which was right across the aisle from us. When I looked out the window of our sound room, there was Bogner. So Reinhold was there making goofy faces at me all day. Yeah, Luke, I remember those old Lab series, and I love those amps. That's the only solid state amp I ever liked. I used to have an L5, and it was cool as hell. We're bouncing around subject here. The GTs, Foosh, that's the metal bottle ones, right? They couldn't pump as hard of a vacuum in those, so they'll show lower. The L5 was a really cool amp. If I were ever going to make a solid state amp, I would clone the L5, and people would probably think that I'm a genius. That was a really, really cool amp. That's one of my dealers calling. Lightning Joe's. I'll call you back, Lightning Joe's, I swear. So, sorry about that. On the pay-per-view show, you will not have to put up with that. Did Elliot Easton play an L5 too? Is that right, Andre? I didn't know that. I thought he was a Marshall 50-watt guy. So, can you guys still hear me? Andre, are you still there? You believe so? Yeah. Well, anyway, on that particular amp, the compressor, which I believe was just a one knob compressor, um, made that thing sound huge. If you guys can ever, here's the vintage amp tip of the day. If you can ever find a Gibson L5, buy it. They made them in the late 70s, I believe, like 77, 78 kind of thing. And it's amazing. It's the only solid state amp I've ever heard of. I'm like, oh yeah, I'd play that. It's cool. When I first got into playing guitar, they used to sell them at the music store in my hometown. And I bought a 50 watt Marshall instead because it was cheaper. I bought a used 50 watt Marshall, one that I still have, in like 1978. But they had the L5 was a 212 combo. And if I remember correctly, didn't it have Altec speakers in it? Yeah, it was the end of the Norlin years, and I think that's the only thing Norlin did right. It was a cool amp. I don't know why they discontinued it, but I loved it. And I have a saved search on eBay for years now, trying to get an L5, and it never shows up. And they go for a lot of money because it's highly sought after amp. It's really cool. There's actually a few on eBay right now. What are they going for? Shit, I don't have any money either. Buy it. Really, let me look, because that's crazy. Maybe my save search expired. It should have told me. $500? Yeah, do it. Buy it. Is that what the bid's at, or they buy it now for $500? Anyway, back to PCB amps. Yeah, King Darko, I've thought about buy that amp. Buy it. It's good. Crap, if I had $500, I'd buy it right now. The parametric EQ is kind of hard to implement without really degrading the tone. There is one EQ function I want to put in to pump some certain frequencies that I think are really key to getting cool guitar sounds. Hi, Peter Donkers. How are you? Man, seriously, if I had $500, I'd buy that L5 right now. But if you guys want to buy it for me, I'll give you free t-shirts. Yeah, I could sell another guitar to Daryl Hall. Well, that was, what year is this? 27 years ago. So, probably not imminent. You're kidding. There's one in Michigan for $265. Does it work? Send me that link here. I'm going to enable links. We're all going to rush to buy it right now. Let me turn the links on. Okay, now post the link for us, Luke. I want to see this because I can afford $265. You just bought it? Oh, son of a... That is such... If it's working right, it's just bought it. Oh, Mojo. Man, don't play like that. That's not funny. Let's see this amp. Gear grabber. That's it. Holy, but does it work? Oh, I'm emailing him right now. Screw that. Should I just buy it? You want me to buy an amp on my show? Oh, forget it. Let's do it. This is hilarious, right? Let's see if we can do this. I will send you a signed T-shirt, Luke.
Music go around. We buy used gear.
Hi, I'm calling about a Lab Series L5 that you have listed on the internet.
Yeah,
How does it work? Is it in good shape?
it is in great shape. I'd actually go as far as to say it's in like mint condition.
I know the picture looks fantastic. That's a rare amp. That's great.
It is, yeah.
I'd like to buy it from you. I live in California. Do you know what the? I have a FedEx account myself or a UPS account. Could I give you that and have you ship it to me?
Sure. Let me check here. Just a sec.
Okay. I'm such a nerd. Well, you guys are really seeing behind the curtains now, aren't you? Live TV in the 50s. Hey, Tony. I didn't know you were here. Good to see you. I'm on hold, so. I'm going to have to mute my mic when I give him my credit card number, though. I hope you don't mind. Man, Luke, you're the man. Not only does a headline amp builder buy another brand of amp, he buys a solid state one. Have the sales guy compare it to a 65. No, I won't do that. This is the only solid state amp, and it's good. Like, I love this amp.
You know, that's something we could probably ship to you. Is it a residence?
Yeah, I can ship to a house or my work, whatever you prefer.
I mean, we have it listed as $60 shipping on the website. I mean, it might be a little bit more than that. It has pop-out casters.
Yeah.
At the bottom of it as well.
Okay. Well, I mean, could I negotiate with a little bit and maybe get it to California for $300 shipped?
I mean, the weight and size of it, period. I mean, $60. At $60, we'd be eating a large portion of the cost of the shipping already.
Yeah. Well, see, the thing is, I have a commercial FedEx. I have a commercial FedEx account.
Okay.
And I get a really good rate. So I tell you what, I'm kind of in the middle of a meeting right now. Can I pay you with PayPal, or can I just give you a credit card, or what's the best for you?
If that works, you'd have to do it PayPal through the website or your credit card through the website.
Because I can do PayPal right now, and I'll give you the $265 to secure the amp, and then I'll contact you about the shipping. Okay.
Okay. I'm not sure that it'll allow you to purchase the amp without paying the shipping.
Oh, I see. Well, I'll tell you what. My name's Dan. Could I just ask you to hold it for 24 hours, and I'll get back to you?
Get your phone number here, Dan.
Sure. My name's Dan Boul, Boul.
And phone number?
It is 818-919-4925.
4925. What's the area code there?
818.
Okay, so it's just 818-4925.
Oh, no, you missed a part. I'm sorry. It's 818-919.
4925.
4925. Yeah, that's right.
All right. Yep, we'll hold it for you, Dan.
Oh, man, I appreciate it. I've been looking for one of these. I love this amp since I was a little kid.
Okay, yep.
I know it's...
We'll hold it for you.
I appreciate it, man. What was your name?
My name's Luke. Any of us can help you here, though. We're not on commission or anything, so...
Okay, well, just in case. I appreciate it, Luke. Thank you.
Yep, no problem.
All right, buddy. Take care. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Now, that's an odd coincidence, isn't it, Luke? There's another phone call.
15108. 9324.
I just can't do it right now. I just can't do it. Where's the mute button? I always forget. And mute this one.
1510 lead. 932414.
No, that was a different area code. Luke, I don't believe you, man. I think you're the Luke I just talked to on the. That's hilarious. Oh, 510 is Oakland, California. Okay. $300? Are you kidding? Hell, I've never seen. That's half the price I've ever seen. The picture looks flawless. In solid state, so it doesn't wear out. Let me go look at that again. Did I close that window? That was cool. Where is it? I want to see this again. Oh, dude. 265. That's stupid. This picture looks like it's incredible. He said it was mint condition. I'm such a nerd, aren't I? Okay. Well, I'll keep that browser window open over here. All right, let's see. Scroll back down. Yeah, I'll bring it in. I'll play it on the show. Yeah, honestly, I've never seen one of those go for less than $500 or $600, and really, really clean ones go for $1,000. So he must have done some silly trade on it, got it in used. And $265, come on, dude. I can get it shipped here for like $30. So I wasn't even going to argue with him on the price at that point. It's like they're probably making $50 on it or something. I didn't want to beat the guy up. But anyway, wow. I got to look at that again. I'm just geeked out. There it is. Music go round. I thought it was music ground. How come I can't get the picture to come up? There we go. Let's see if I can blow that up. No, I can't. Let me save the picture to my desktop. Save it to my iPhoto library. Let's look at it in iPhoto. So sorry guys, we got a little distracted there. Last import. Where is it? And zoom. Holy cow, that's really clean. That's really, really clean. I'm in 7th grade again. Man, I used to love this amp. It still does. I've heard, like, somebody mentioned it here on the chat window. I saw B.B. King playing with these twice, and it sounded great. And a big part of the sound for me was, that's funny, because this whole thing started because we're talking about features on amps that we want to add to our PCB stuff, and what I want to add is a compressor. And one of the reasons I always wanted to do that was because of this amp. The compressor just made it sound gigantic. I mean, it was just, it was really good distortion. And I know there's been a bunch of amp builders trying to duplicate that amp, and you can't get those chips anymore. It had some chips in it that don't exist anymore. Hey, Slow-Mo. How are you? You just saw BB a few months ago, and he still has his lab series? Wow. And Neptune Amp says Ty Tabor's sound on early King's X albums was an L5. Yeah, it's a great amp. Honestly, I hate solid state shit, except for this. This is like the shining exception to the rule. It's just a good amp. I don't remember how good the clean sound was, because when I was 12 years old, I did not care about a clean sound at all. But the distortion was sick. Sick. It was really good. Maybe there's some YouTube videos. Can you guys hunt around on YouTube and see if there's any videos of guys playing an L5? Post it up here for us. Um, Sing It Hard, Sing It Well says, hey, I love Miami Vice in the 80s. Then I saw it as a rerun as an adult. Enjoy the amp, though. No, I've heard these recently. They sound great. And you heard BB traded them in at Music Go Round. Well, maybe these amps have some Jerry curl stains on them. Because when I saw BB playing these, he had the Jerry curl going on. No, Steve, you're not off topic at all. You're actually drawing us back onto topic. Okay, someone's got a... Let's see here. Demo of a... Yeah. It's a great sounding amp. It says B.B. King's favorite and highly rated by Joe Bonamassa. 100 watts. Got an effects loop and reverb in it. Norland music, big giant transformers in it. Yeah, baby. He's doing kind of clean stuff on it. I wish somebody would show the, there's the compressor. There you go. Thank you, Neptune Amps. The chat window keeps going back up to the top, and I'm not doing that. Baseface Josh says, Josh, you're always so good. Okay, let's talk about rectifiers. Steve Kirk has a important. So let me finish the PCB discussion really quick, Steve, and we'll get to this. So I'm thinking about features like that, you know, the compressor that really, if you know how to use a compressor correctly, it's an amazing device. There's that, and everybody wants reverb when you get to a certain level, so we'll likely do a reverb. I'm not sure. I'm leaning towards doing a digital reverb, just because spring reverbs are just such a pain in the butt, and the spring pans you buy today are junk compared to the ones that Fender used. Will it be parallel compression? I don't know yet. We'll see how it works. And Flat Top Rockers extolling the virtues of his solid state PV. That's good, man. So anyway, Steve Kirk had an actual amp question here. Let's get back on topic. So Steve Kirk, who you guys may know or may not know, is the most recorded guitar player, or his recordings are the most listened recordings of anyone in the world, because he did the theme music for Farmville. And how many users do they have on Farmville, Steve? I can't remember. 200 million or something. The most heard guitar player on the planet. And people play that song for hours at a time. Okay. And he's been on the show. That's right. He's one of our customers. And the amp that you're hearing on that is Little Elvis, if I'm not mistaken. Oh, the chat window won't stay still. Why is it doing this? I can't read your question. Freaking Ustream. Let me scroll all. It keeps going back up to the top. I'm not even touching anything. Son of a. Yeah, we're talking about solid state amps, man. Steve, I read your question. I can't remember it all. I want to make sure I get it right. This is driving me absolutely batshit. If I refresh, though, I'll disconnect you guys. It won't stay at the bottom. Son of a bitch. Quit typing for a second, guys. I can't get to it. Steve, would you mind retyping your question, please? I'm losing my freaking mind. I don't even see it now. Oh, this is a question about rectifier. God damn it. What kind of tube do I use in the rectifier for my Elvis? The old ones will blow out. Believe it or not, NOS rectifiers are not what you want in a modern amp. Those are, for some reason, are the least reliable. I use the ones from Electro Harmonics. Their voltage is always perfect, and they don't fail. We've never had an Electro Harmonics rectifier fail. They're really cheap, too. The JJs I have problems with. The Chinese ones I have problems with. I never used them, but we tested them, and then poop. And their voltages were all over the place, you know. The Russian ones, EZ81 is what you want. I think the US number for it is a 6CA4. Sorry. And I have had like all my NOS rectifiers go. I've had Mullards and Telefunkens and yeah, I can click on the pop out. Is that what you're saying? Let's see. Yeah, I lost all the previous stuff though. Let's see all the users. God, we got a lot of people on today. On Thursday. Is Thursday a better day for you guys or something? Bunch of guys on here. You gotta watch me buy a solid state amp. That's freaking hilarious. Okay, the pop out seems to be more stable. I think the problem is once you get a certain amount of chat in there, the little Java widget or whatever it is, a Tesla 6BQ5 is not a rectifier tube. A 6BQ5, isn't that the US number for an EL84? I don't know why I'm blanking on this at the moment, but 6BQ5 is the US number. Yeah, that's an EL84. No, not a 6AR4. It's a 6CA4 is the US number. You're thinking of a 5AR4, which is the same as the big boy. Yeah, 6CA4 is the one you want. That's also, the European number for that is EZ81 or EZ81 for our English friends. Yeah. Let me know if you need help, Steve. I mean, I have some here if you're in an emergency, but you should be able to buy it in San Francisco. Every music store should have one in stock. If they don't, they're poo-poo heads. Poo-poo heads. I said poo-poo heads. You do need help. Okay. You know who you could call? Is our buddy Miles. He probably has a bunch in his little bag of tricks. I got to see if I have some here I can sell you. Camaro Z28, that's right. The BMW Z4. Is there any music stores close to you, Steve? Yeah, I'll send you his number right now. Hang on a second. This is customer service, my friends. This is how I treat my phone's all locked up. What the hell? I'm having technology day from hell here. All right. Miles Rose. Miles Rose. Share contact. Message. Steve Kirk. There you go. Coming at you, Steve. Technology day from hell, so I had to buy a 35-year-old solid state amp. That's right. If you can find a music store in town, Steve, it'll be probably quicker. You're not being a pest. Don't worry about it, man. You got a gig. That's fine. It's no problem at all. What's involved with the blueprinting Miles did for Jared's amp? Oh, that's a really good question. Let's go off on that tangent for a second. First off, you guys know that Miles is like a tube genius. He's got a natural, intuitive understanding of the way tubes work that is really unusual. I'm going to answer this other question really quick. Dan, what KT77 replacement tubes do you recommend for the Royal Albert? If you can afford NOS ones, that's by far the best. The JJs are good. They can be problematic, which is why we quit pushing that amp. You can put EL34s in it. You just have to tie pin 7 and pin 8 together on the tube sockets. So the KT77, the suppressor grid is connected internally, and with an EL34 you have to connect it externally. I would probably put EL34s or 6L6s in it just to be safe, to be honest with you. You can try the Electro Harmonics ones. I haven't had great luck with them either. I kind of regret ever putting that amp out, to be honest, because the tube supply went to absolute shit after about a year. And I love that amp. I think it's an amazing sounding amp, but okay. So let's talk about Miles Rose and blueprinting amps for a minute. First off, Miles is really fun, really cool guy who knows what he's doing and has such an interesting life story. It's really cool. Get him from JJ. Keith Urban did use up all my tubes for that amp. So did Rich Robinson from the Black Crowes. I had two really high-profile artists that used those amps, and then the supply just went to hell. I was so angry. I couldn't tell you. And I was embarrassed, too, because the amps worked perfect for the first year. Then they freshen them up for the next tour, and they're popping tubes every 4 or 5 shows. It was just stupid. So we converted Rich's to EL34s, and again, all I got to do is just put a jumper between pin 7 and pin 8 on the tube socket. Oh yeah, the Royal Albert's killer. I love that amp, but you know. Miles is very generous with his information. He really has no ego about it or anything. So what he does when he blueprints an amp is we'll start with the amp. First thing he does is he'll balance the pickups on the guitar that the guy's playing so that the output is even across the strings, which that alone makes a huge difference in the way a guitar sounds. But then we're going to go, stop. We're going to go through the amp. I got dealer after dealer calling today. Oh, cool. Steve, you got an amp. Okay, so, so anyway, we'll go through the amp. First he'll do is put like kind of straight spec tubes in there. And as you guys know, there's a whole lot of variables in tube behavior besides transconductance. Transconductance just tells you how much electricity comes out the plate versus how much is coming in the cathode. It just tells you if it works. It's not a really good measure of performance. There's a lot of other factors, plate resistance and current draw and all these sorts of things that really make a difference in how the tube acts. So if you get a 12AX7 that just measures nice on a transconductance thing, most of the time those are measured at really low voltage and it's not even relevant to what you do in a guitar amp. But it's a marketing thing that people do to make you feel like you've got a good tube. So, move this just a hair. So, what Miles does is he'll put sort of straight spec tubes in the amp that meet spec. And then he'll watch you play for a while. And if you have a heavy right hand, there's a factor in tubes called rise time, which means how quickly when you hit that thing with electricity does it come up to full power, full output. And Miles has a curve tracer that measures a performance curve of all the elements of the tube, not just transconductance. And so based on your playing style and what you kind of tell him, you interact with him and tell him what you want. If you have a tube with slow rise time, you can feel it. You get ahead of it. You feel like you're limited on how fast you can play. If you have an amp where the rise time is too high, it'll feel kind of jumpy. And maybe it's too jumpy for you. And you like to do long sustaining string bends, then you want something with a slower rise time so it swells, And there's about 10 factors like that Miles will go through. And he'll go right down the line, V1, and you get it right. And he'll take V2 and get it right. And sometimes when you change V2, that means you got to change V1, So he'll spend a few hours with you and just get it perfect to where you go, oh, yeah, that's exactly right. And I think you guys saw that video of Jared Scharf. Jared's a very picky guy, extremely, extremely bright kid. And he's also very articulate about what he wants, and he's very nice about it, but he's very, very clear about what he wants. He's one of the few guitar players I've worked with who can tell you in elaborate detail exactly what he wants to happen. And so he sat down with Miles, and they got it right. And so you saw the video. All Jared could say was, this thing fucking rocks. He got it exactly. So Jared's, like I said, Jared's a very articulate kid. And all he could think to say was, this thing fucking rocks. So that's really cool. And so Miles did that for him. And that's what you hear on Saturday Night Live. So it's sort of a custom tailored thing. There are some guys that can sort of do that intuitively by ear, just replacing tubes. I'm kind of that guy. I can replace, no, this is better, it's worse. I can't really tell you why, but I like it better. Miles knows how to quantify that and turn it into something real. So that's what the blueprinting is all about. I think he normally charges $200 to $400 for doing that, depending on the amp and all that sort of stuff. So it is what it is. Now, have I lost you guys again? The chat window seems to have gone dead. So that's what Miles Rose does for you when he blueprints an amp. Are you guys still there? Can you check in? I'm not seeing any activity at all. Okay, cool. Yeah, it's just kind of weird. Sometimes it'll shut off and then I'll get 30 messages just scroll by. Okay, thanks. Sorry. It's this thing screws up so much. I was kind of being paranoid there. So that's the blueprinting with Miles Rose, and it's really good. He's done it to me. He's balanced all my guitars. It makes a big difference. He's got a little meter he plugs into the output jack of your guitar, and you go string by string, and you get the output to be all the same. So when you hit a big chord, it goes fring, and makes a big difference. And that's one of those little finesse setup things that guys like Clapton or whatever, their techs do that, and it's a nice benefit. So Nick S., we're going to get to you, and I know why you're asking these questions. Is there any difference in sound between the LP amp and the HP amp with the half power switch down? Yeah, I mean, the volume's definitely different. But when you have a high-powered version of one of our amps, you have a bigger power transformer, and that has more bottom end to it. So we change it a little bit because a big transformer can add a lot of bottom end. We'll roll it off just a hair on the high-powered version, but it's really similar. And I think you'd have to have them side by side to really tell the difference. And again, if you don't need a lot of clean headroom, the HP is just a lot of amp with a lot of tubes in it, and it's louder than hell. And if you want to get distortion at low volumes, it's going to be more difficult. So, Sing It Hard, Sing It Well asked, do you guys still recertify U65 amps? Yeah, we do. Absolutely. We do that. It's called a warranty transfer because all of our amps have a lifetime warranty on them. And it's the thing we run into with hand-wired amps is there's a big community of guys that like to modify amps. And so we get a lot of used ones in, and then we'd have to fix them. And so we decided that we would just go ahead and redo the amp for you. We'll go through, we'll make it sure it's stock. We'll make sure that it's got all the latest revisions. If there's any revisions for them, we do those for free. And we retest it. It goes full on testing, just like a brand new chassis. It gets the burn-in rack again for 2 days. And then we recertify it as new, and we do that for $200. It's a pretty good insurance policy. And that way we make sure we're supporting an amp that's correct. You'd be astonished at how many guys like to modify our amps. Martin Gooseland, hey, how are you, buddy? The $200 includes shipping back to you as well. So if you're in the United States, if you're in Europe, oh, there goes the phone again. If you're in Europe, it's a different story. I've got guys there that can do that. I got a tech in Norway who can do that for you. Yeah, I think it's a really good deal, even when the phone's ringing. It's Lighthouse Music. I need to call him back. I'll do it. I'll probably end here shortly. And Nick, we really didn't get into recording stuff, and that'll be a good subject for next week. And I'll leave that written here on my list. Martin Goosen says, what EF86 tube would you recommend for my Soho? Is it time for a new one? As you're starting to get rattly? They're both good. Hang on 1 second. I'm just finishing my show. What's up? The Amprex has a lot of gain in my experience. It's really dirty. And the more gain that they have, the more rattly they're going to be. The Telefunkens are really good in a head. Don't use them in a combo because the shroud screen that they use on those has a hole in it, and the magnet from the speaker will make that tube howl. If it's in a head, it's okay. The Creamback. Oh, Bob, you asked this question earlier. I'm sorry. I honestly haven't spent any time with it. It's good. I'm not a big fan of the greenbacks to begin with in our amps. They sound great in Marshalls and AC30s and stuff, but I don't really like them in our amps. The Creamback that I have, I like a lot. I think it's really cool, but I really haven't spent enough time with it to give you a smart answer. I'd love to sit here and give you a robust, complete answer, but I can't. Um, I'm not even sure they're selling them yet, to be honest. I think they are. RFT tongue saw, yeah, that's a good tube. That's a very good tube. That's what we used to use for a long time. And I was very happy with it, but the supply of those ran out. That was an NOS tube we were getting from Hungary. The Dario's really good too, if you can still find those. There's hardly any of those around. How do your amps play with vintage 30s? Not very well. The vintage 30 is actually a 60 or 65 watt speaker. So it's a lot of voice coil. Plus the top ends rolled off of those a lot. Those were made for the high gain heavy metal kind of things. It's sort of a marketing misnomer. It's not a 30 watt speaker, it's a 60 watt speaker. So if you make a 212 with them, it's a 120 watt cabinet that you're going to push with a 20 watt amp. It's sort of a mismatch, if you know what I mean. I like the lower powered speakers with our stuff, just because they're more articulate. Doug Gilliam says, what do you think of the G12H 75 Hertz Heritage? It's a really good speaker. I like that one a lot. That's what I have my old basket weave Marshall 412, and I blew one of the speakers out of it, and that's what I put in there, and it sounds really good. We offered them in our stuff a few years ago for a while, and no one ordered it. So they're good, though. I know they're really nice. So should be okay. Should be good. Martin, though, back to, have you talked to Arna in Oslo about EF86s? I mean, I tell you honestly, the new Electro-Harmonix ones are great. We worked with them on that tube, so it's not quite the same as an NOS tube, but it's really good. And they're not very rattly. Is your EF86 rattling on you? Making noise? You've had your Soho for a long time, too, haven't you? Like 4 years or something. HMS Hood says, how do these amps sound modded? Are they ruined? Yeah, sometimes, yeah. Not always. Yeah, Martin, Derek at Watford Valves. Good tip, Pink Paisley. Thank you. Watford Valves in England has a lot of good tubes. And Derek's a good dude. I used to buy a lot of NOS EF86s from him. He got tired of me. Because I was soaking up his supply. So he kind of cut me off. Van City Dave says, what working class mics do you like on the 212 cabinets for a live? The Sennheiser, whatchamadoodle, what's it called? 609. The Sennheiser 609, which is $120, I think is the best live mic. I'm not a big fan of the 57. It works. But it's not my favorite mic. Yeah, the old 409s are good. Yeah, if you're looking for tubes here in the U.S., there's Doug's Tubes, Doug Preston. He's at DougsTubes.com, and Mike Kropotkin at KCA NOS Tubes. Two of my favorites. Tube Depot has some good stuff too. I don't have a lot of experience with them. I'm sure they're good. Doug Gilliam, the E906 is skewed for vocals. That's more of a vocal mic than it is an instrument mic. It'll work, but I think it's got a different frequency response that's kind of set up for vocals. Yeah, Tube Depot's good. The 609's great. That's what Jared has on Saturday Night Live. When you listen to Jared, he's in an ISO cab, and I know someone asked about ISO cabs, and I didn't get to it. Jared's playing through a 609. That Monterey's going through a 112, like our Elvis style cabinet. Well, if Martin likes the 906, that's good. But he's got one of our little Elvis style, the little fat 112, the deep one that's fat sounding. With the 609 hanging in front of it, and he's playing through an Alnico Gold. That's what you're hearing on Saturday Night Live. Is the Monterey through the Alnico Gold. I just got your message on Facebook, Martin. Yeah, I'll do that later today. Yeah, the RE20 is a good choice, along with the 421. You're getting into more money with those. The Royer 121 is good, but it's a $1,200 mic. There's an EQ switch on the 906. Okay, I stand corrected. Yeah, the 57 can mix with other mics. Okay, I don't like it as the only mic. Guitar Dom says, so if I have a G12H in a cab with a Vintage 30, what should I replace the Vintage 30 with? It depends on your budget. For one of our amps, I'd put one of the Alnico Blue or the Alnico Gold, depending on what your power needs are. That, if you have a regular G12H, put a Heritage G12H in there too. That's all good stuff. If you can find some old vintage Celestians, put them in there. Some pre-roll M's or H's are great. Pink Paisley says try the WGS. I don't have any real experience with those in our amps, but I've heard people like them a lot. So Dom, how much money do you want to spend? That's really the question. Playing live, what kind of mic pre do you recommend for a Royer 121? I wouldn't buy a 121 for live. They make a rugged version of that's meant for live playing. I think it's called a 122, if I remember correctly. I have to look on their website. It depends on your board. If you want to bring an extra preamp out with you, I'd get a lunchbox preamp and use either an API 312 copy or an API 312, the little lunchbox size, like I have here on my rig. Here, I think it's actually still disconnected. I can show you. So this is an API lunchbox, and the two that I have in here are my two favorite preamps. This is made by BAE, British Audio Engineering, here in Los Angeles. It's an API 312. APIs are really punchy, sort of that AC/DC kind of sound. This is a Neve 1073 copy that's made by Avitus Audio. And Avitus is the designer and engineer over at BAE. Avitus is like the smartest guy in LA. 121L, yes, thank you. It's not Brent Averill anymore, Andre. It used to be Brent Averill Engineering, and Brent sold the company to my friend Mark Laughlin. And Mark changed the name to British Audio Engineering. Brent Averill's not associated with him anymore. So you can take this thing with you anywhere you go. And you've got really good sounds. Those are my two favorite preamps to combine. If you have a PreSonus 2442, that has pretty good preamps in it. They're really good. You might just be happy with that because those things are like $500. I would try that first and see what you think. The PreSonus board actually has really good compression built into it also. The compressor on that's pretty clean. So you can pump it really hard through your board. With a ribbon mic, you need a preamp. Actually, I take it back. I'm stoned. What am I saying? You need a bigger preamp to run a ribbon mic. You can't do it off the board. The preamp in the PreSonus won't support a ribbon mic. You are correct, sir. I am mistaken. So, yeah. Yeah, 1200. That's where I run everything. Is at the high impedance setting. It's worth it, man. You put a real mic on your guitar, even through a crappy PA system, it sounds clear. And that's the benefit of doing that, is that it's clear. And if it's clear, you don't have to crank your guitar up as much, just to hear yourself. You know, if you're listening through your monitor, fold back, or in ears, if it's clear, you're just going to hear it. You're going to play better because you hear it. It's a lot of money to invest. I mean, a 121 and a good preamp, you're talking, and a lunchbox to put it in, you're talking $2,000, you know, to do that, which is more than the cost of your PreSonus board. So, kind of a judgment call there. To be honest with you, take this with a grain of salt. I wouldn't really take a $1,200, $1,300 microphone out to gigs. I think it's kind of an unnecessary. Thank you, Martin. Martin's given us the technical reason for using the higher impedance. And, you know, like say, if you're in some place that has a house PA that's halfway blown up anyway, I could argue pretty well that it might not be worth it. Andre Max says, do you know if anyone, 65 artists, are using Palmers for a live front of house feed? Yeah, Mark Goldenberg does that with, he plays for Jackson Browne. He doesn't do that on the Jackson Browne show, but with his own band. He plays at little places like Genghis Khan here in LA, which has great egg rolls, by the way. So anyway, Doug, that's just humble advice. You know, you do what you want to do. It's your money and it's all that sort of thing. But, you know, I've played enough gigs where the unthinkable happens on stage a lot. And it would just be a shame for a nice microphone like that to get hammered because some fat chick in the dancing at the front of the stage splashes her beer up on your rig. I don't know why I said fat chick. She could be skinny. That was really inappropriate. I'm sorry. So, yeah. Yeah, the ribbons are bidirectional, and that does come up. But they're also, you know, when you have a preamp on them, you don't have to turn the sensitivity up very high. Your sound guy wants to drop a Shure vocal mic in front of the speaker, and I usually just don't argue. Well, you need to tell him he's a fuck up. Gosh, that's really rude. I'm sorry I said that. Not really. Vocal mics are not meant for instruments. And I think the worst sounding instrument mic in the world is the Shure 57. Everyone likes them because they're bulletproof and they work, and you can drop them down a flight of stairs and they still work great, and they can take a ton of SPL without getting damaged. So they're a guppy. You know, a guppy will live in a toilet bowl and be happy, and that's kind of what a Shure 57 is, which is why sound guys like to use them. Because it's a no-brainer. You know it's going to work. I would probably recommend just using a dynamic mic on stage. That 609 is really good. It sounds way better than a 57. Also, that Royer that I use in here, where is it? This one. Not the Royer, well, it's Royer owns the company, but Mojave is the 101. This mic is everything that a 57 wants to be when it grows up. This is the FET version. It has a FET driver in it. They make a regular standard version too. You can see that really close. I think come on, focus on it. Focus. Focus. I gotta get that close. What's the deal? It won't focus. But, yeah, that's very well said, Martin. I mean, the difference in price between a 609 and a 57 is like $10. They're not expensive. $129 at Guitar Center, and I think a 57's $115 or something. Your sound man is not treating you right, Doug. I've never heard of that. And poor Josh says only fat chicks show up at his gig, so I'm sorry to hear that. Why don't you just bring a 609, plug it in, and go, dude, this is what I'm using. Make it work. After all, the sound man does work for you. Sound men need to be reminded of that once in a while. There's the good sound men, and I'm not talking about them. I'm talking about the other. There's a large group of sound. The bigger the waistband, the deeper the quicksand is what I'm always saying. There's a group of sound men that think they know better than you, and it's their PA system, and it's their microphone, and goddamn it, you're going to do what they say because they've been around. At which point you go, wow, that's really, really cool. Now I'm going to use this mic. And I so thank you for doing that for me. You know what I mean? You can't start a war with the sound man because he'll make you sound like crap all night long. You just have to go, man, I hear you. I respect it. It's all good. I use this mic. This is my sound. Can you please make it work? Or I'll get on the PA system and blame you for every problem we're having all night long. Yeah, that's right. Anita says they can either make you sound good or bad. That's absolutely correct. It's never worth starting a war with your sound man. You'll lose. No matter how good or bad the sound man is. If he's angry at you, you're going to sound like shit all night. And you won't hear yourself. And you'll look like a fool. So you always got to just kind of take the high road and go, hey man, I need you to use this mic, okay? Thank you. Hey, can I get you a beer? Hey, where are you from? How many kids you got? You know. Yeah, hey, I know you're busy. Let me set up my mic. This is the one I always use. I'm kind of a girl, little tiny weenie when it comes to this. Can you just humor me on this? Because you're such a good sound man. I know you can make this work. I wouldn't ask a bad sound man to do that. I would ask you because I know you're really good. That's what everyone here says. This guy, Steve, is amazing, and Steve can do it. So that's my humble advice. I'm from Missouri. You always do better by pouring sugar on people than you do vinegar. So I think sound men really need to be respected because they don't get a lot of respect. Even if they're no good, they just deserve respect because it's not the best job in the world. And I think if you just give the sound man his proper respect and props, he'll do his best to make you sound good. Kind of a boring job for a lot of guys because most of the bands they have to mix are awful. So sometimes they can get very frustrated and impatient. And I understand that. I get it. Nonetheless, you still want to sound good, and you've got your own thing, and you want to make it work. So I think you just give the man his due respect, and usually they'll work with you. It's been my experience, at least. Especially when they're, oh, the sound man's grumpy. You know, stay away from him. It's the first guy I go talk to. Hey, buddy, how are you? Man, everybody over here says you're great. I'm looking forward to working with you. You know, take the high road, as it were, if you will, so to speak, per se, et al., pursuant to Municipal Code 1213.c. Well, anyway, fellas, it's 1:35. I am starving. I have not eaten breakfast, and I have not eaten lunch. So my stomach is growling. My head is starting to hurt. Oh, Anita says, this is good. One night after many, the sound guy asked me to look at his board. When I did, he showed me all the levels were down. It was screaming loud. Nice. It was all the band. Yeah, well, you got to do that. Peter is playing with Cheryl all summer, all year, I think. He's out doing a bus tour with her right now. They're hitting radio stations in the South, and just her and Peter, and showing up with acoustic guitars and playing singers. So anyway, guys, I got to go ahead and sign off. I got a meeting I got to get to. I got to get some food or I'm going to die. But thank you guys. I appreciate you coming on Thursday. I know I messed the schedule up. Yeah, you know what happened? I had a conference call at 6:30 this morning, and I didn't get a chance to eat. And so, very good. Thursday. Seems like Thursday's better for you guys. Is Thursday better? Would you rather me do it on Thursdays? Thank you, Nick. I do appreciate your patience again. Anyway, Thursday's fine with me. I don't care. We got a big crowd, and it's an off day. I mean, at one point we had a huge crowd on here. Either works for you. No preference is what you're saying. Okay, well, I'll stick with Wednesday because that's what everybody expects. And then thanks for your feedback on doing the other show. That's down the road. It won't happen anytime soon. But it's a way for me to make a little bit extra cash that I can pump into 65. Which that helps. Helps me do more products and get them out faster. Very good. Anytime, any place. Ba, 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 ba. I can go anywhere. Oh, yeah, I got to go pay for my L5. Woo! Come on now. I'm excited about that. Holy crap. Isn't that crazy? I'm just a freaking 8th grader again. Seriously, I've wanted an L5 forever. And you heard that clip that gentleman posted here. It's amazing, huh? It's a really good amp. Maybe I should try to make that. Get away from tubes. Just kidding. Yeah, Rob, I'll let you know if I hear back from Brian, so don't worry about that. There's a good chance we won't hear back from him, so don't be hurt if he doesn't get right back to us, okay? You too, Anita. Thanks for showing up. We love it that you're the only brave woman in the world that will sit here and speak with us. So anyway, you guys have a good weekend, and I'll see you next Wednesday. And I am making progress on getting my rig set up. Polar Bear 74, nice to see you. Rob Ballas, thank you very much. Pink Paisley, welcome back. Always good to see you. Some new guys, Van City Dave, Neptune Amps. Frank Schotoffer, always a pleasure to see you. Flat Top Rocker 67, you're new to the show, welcome. And I'm going to go ahead and sign off, and we will see you guys shortly. Take care.